Hey, howdy and hello, folks. Welcome back into T1A Tier 1 Ascension. My name is Tank. Today I am going through a few players that I think you can acquire for a little bit lower value than what they'll actually be for your roster for 2023. Let's get into it. All right, we are here. We're after the draft, probably after your rookie draft. The leagues have gone quiet and desolate for a little while, but I've gone out and made some moves, and some of these guys are who I am targeting. So first up on the list is going to be Kenny Pickett. Definitely a guy that you can acquire for probably a 24 first, mid, late 24 first. Might have to throw in a 24 third round pick with it, but definitely a guy that should be on the up and up as far as what's happening with him this year. Definitely see him as that fringe QB1, QB2 type of player. Somebody in a superflex league where you can just plug him in your QB2 and don't worry about it. They're going to get you that 15 to 17, maybe a high side of 20 points each week. He didn't have any offensive change systems, anything, coaching, nothing like that's changing. The only coaching change on the Steelers was on the defensive side. They have added some more protection for Kenny Pickett. In the draft this year, they brought in some rookies that should help bolster that line. They also got Darnell Washington, who could prove to be a great blocking tight end, help open up the run game, help open up the passing game by providing a little bit more protection. The running backs, Najee Harris, should be healthy, creating a solid run game with his ability to be able to run and catch. His backup, Jalen Warren, a great handcuff running back. If you need one out there, showed great explosiveness, ability to catch the pass. So great options still there for them. Their wide receivers, nothing really changed. They ended up getting rid of Claypool, didn't do anything for them before or after the trade. So obviously, it didn't have much of an impact on the roster. They still have Deontay Johnson, who gets 120 plus targets a year. They've got George Pickens, who looked like he could do everything Claypool could do, but better, and probably needed a season to get healthy and get right from the injuries he was coming off of. Then they added Allen Robinson. I don't know how much that's going to do anything, but it's a veteran presence that could find zones. It also could help this younger wide receiver staff. They also have Calvin Austin, a little speedster, got hurt last year. So the weapons could be dynamic. They could still have a great option. Plus, growth for a quarterback from year one to year two is quite substantial. We saw that even with Trevor Lawrence. I know he's generational talent and all, but you see him go from his first year, even with a bad coaching system, to a good coaching system and a second year growth. It made big leaps and bounds to what he could do and the offense they can run. Even if you look through Kenny Pickett's games last year, you saw that progression where he started getting more comfortable, opening up the playbook near the end of the year, actually having some decent fantasy value for you. And he only played 13 games. So the rushing side that he had, he put up about 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was in 13 games. Add 4 or 5 more games in there. Well, you can't add 5. Add 4 more games in there, and I think you've got a fringe QB1 with just his rushing upside, probably hitting that 400, 450 yard mark. So that is why I'm saying going out, get some Kenny Pickett if you need to lock down your QB2. Next up on my list, we have Samaje Perine. A few of the guys there in the leagues I'm in already know I was out there chasing him probably around the draft. And that's just because Javonte is coming off of a significant knee injury. I don't care if he's ready for the beginning of the season or not. He's still going to have a limited workload. So that's going to fall onto Samaje Perine. We've also seen Sean Payton offenses host 2 top 12 running backs. Not saying that's these guys, but that puts just some more fantasy value in Perine's bucket. So to be able to get Perine, you're probably looking at maybe a 2024 second, mid, late. Just depends on the league you're in. Just depends on if people have heard the hype of, oh, you should go grab Samaje. But he's definitely got receiving upside. They've already started to see some great rushing work, and there's not a lot of options there in Denver as far as running backs. So Samaje could be seeing the 50, 60 targets receiving, as well as maybe 5 to 12 rushing attempts a game. So some decent stats for a guy that you're going to play maybe a second for, and he could have bigger upside than that with the Broncos defense coming on, being a little bit better. You never know what's going to happen. Hopefully the reemergence of Russell Wilson and the receivers and this offense can really get going. And if so, that's when the running backs will also credit, getting goal line work and seeing some short yardage plays just to make their fantasy value higher. Next on my list, go Bucks. Chris Godwin. Just seeing what's out there for receivers and potential upside of players. Chris Godwin is probably on the low list along with like Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Just as the quarterback situation sucks, I'm off of him. I'm out. And I think that's just a wrong approach with a guy like him who is going to help do everything he can in the short yardage stuff. They're going to still run Mike Evans for the longer routes. He's still going to be the X, where Chris Godwin is going to be more of the slot receiver, playing off the ball. And there's not a whole lot of options. I mean, Russell Gage is still there, Cade Otton, Rashad White, and they also brought in Chase Edmonds and Sean Tucker. So that offense is kind of clunky right now, and the only highlight is probably going to end up being Chris Godwin. There's no reason why he shouldn't see 120, 130 targets this year and, definitely hit that 1,000-yard mark, probably 5 to 6 touchdowns. And the cost to get him right now is maybe a late first or a couple seconds, or even trading off a player. Let's see. You can probably trade Jerry Jeudy, and get Chris Godwin, just because the value seems so low on him right now that I think he's a great acquisition. All right. Moving down the list here, we're just flying through names. Cam Akers. Putting this list together, I didn't think I was going to put Cam Akers on here. But the more I thought about it, I was like, this is definitely a list that he belongs on. It's guys that seem like they have a lower value, but could definitely hold a great, second tier type of player, like a running back 2, with some games where he has some running back 1 upside on a week, 2, 3 touchdowns, just get you that extra 12, 18 points on top of his 60 to 80 yards rushing, maybe 100, and looking at 2, 3, 4 catches. Not really looking for anything out of his PPR value as much as he is going to be utilized as a rusher. For the value you can get him at right now, it's definitely a late 2024 first, and I don't think you need to spend much more than that. If they're asking for more than that, it's not worth it. But this is a guy that could have just a little bit more value as the Rams offense get going again, having Stafford back, having Kupp back, having Aaron Donald on the defense, maybe holding down the score just a little bit more, and they try to run out the game. And this could be a season where Cam Akers breaks into the top 12, and probably a good buy right now. Okay, last guy on the list. People that know me know I was on this player for a while. That's Antonio Gibson. Eric Bieniemy coming over to the Commanders, I think is going to be a good thing. It's not going to be like, oh my gosh, they're finally going to use him the right way. No, of course not. It's going to be similar to what we've seen, but I think without J.D. McKissick there, they're finally going to allow Antonio Gibson to get a role in this offense. And so they're going to use him probably in the slot. They're going to use him off the line of scrimmage, use him as that wide receiver running back that he was drafted in and supposed to be. I wouldn't suspect that he gets more than 35, 40 catches, and very similar to Samaje Perine, seeing 8 to 12 touches a game as far as rushing attempts, and maybe 5, 6 touchdowns. So you're not looking at him being an RB1. That's probably not in his cards. He's probably going to be lower end RB2, but if you're looking for a third, fourth flex player, he's probably somebody that you can go out and spend 2024 third, maybe a late 2024 second, just depends on how you feel, or get a kickback of a third or a fourth back for next year if you're trading that second away. Well, those are a few of the players that I am currently targeting or looking at because their values are just a little bit lower. And what you can get out of them will definitely help your roster now for rebuilds. These guys are not super old. Most of them are pretty young, except for Samaje and Godwin. For anybody contending, these are great, deeper roster fills, flex players that you can get at a decent value without overspending your next year capital. Till next time, have a great one.